Welcome to another edition of the Chicago Bears Bonanza football podcast. Danny Boy joined with Samir. We are days back from London. Surely still recovering, but back to work. Yes, I see you in your nice suit. What a weekend, my friend.
Great weekend. Great weekend. Great city. Fabulous experience.
I'm surprised that we were able to put it all together. Oh, we have Gao coming in. Hello.
Ooh.
Okay, as Gao comes in, we'll continue the discussion. Gao, we almost gave up on you. It was wild that we were able to coordinate people coming from all across the globe to be in London together for the Bears. Showed up at the stadium and never thought I'd imagine so many Bears fans, obviously Raiders fans, and people with the most randomest jerseys from all over the world were there supporting the NFL. So, what an experience even before the game, right?
Yeah, first of all, I love London. I love the food. I love the culture. I love the people. And it was great to see. I went to this game 5 years ago. I went to a London game 5 years ago, and it was mostly Americans on holiday. It's great to see that now there's a bunch of people from all over Europe who are kind of picking up our crazy obsession here. So that was the biggest difference I saw, and just what a first class stadium that was as well. We've all been to a bunch of stadiums. That is one of the nicest stadiums I think I've ever seen.
Gal, welcome to the discussion. We were just talking about some general impressions of London. What do you think, baby?
Oh man, well, London's a great city. It was amazing traveling in and connecting with all of us, the crew, traveling from all over the world and meeting up in London. That was an amazing experience in and of itself. And then to go to the Bears game out there, kind of piggybacking on what Samir said, it's so interesting seeing the fans in Europe and in London and hearing them think about football. And then when they start talking about the small nuances of things, you can tell, all right, these guys pay attention.
Oh, yeah.
These guys know what they're talking about, and these guys are like paying attention to the small details of the game. And I think it's just so interesting hearing how they became affiliated with a particular team. Whether it's the Bears or some other Raiders or some other team. It's just interesting. I really think American football is gonna pick up in Europe quite a bit. I think the fans are gonna really take to it. So it's cool to see.
Yeah, that's something I never thought would happen, but it seems like it's happening slowly but surely. And yeah, it was, the other thing that was great about it was, you see all these groups of friends who, we were not unique in this sense where there was 6 of us who came together from different parts of the country, different parts of the globe to hang out. And you can just get this vibe that there was a lot of people doing that. And it was just like a happy, fun vibe, whether you were a Raiders fan or a Bears fan or a Redskins fan or a Cutler fan, didn't matter. Everyone was together just here to enjoy football. So it was a beautiful thing. Beautiful, beautiful thing.
Yeah, guys, you guys can hear me all right? My mic cut out, which is a bit embarrassing. Sorry about that. But, it was just an amazing city. Perfect weather, I might add.
Oh, yeah.
We thought we were going to get a rain front coming in and we were going to be underwater all weekend. And the sun actually came out the day before the game, which I thought was a good omen for the Bears winning for some reason. And that wasn't realized, unfortunately. But nonetheless.
Good omen for the Raiders. That's what it was.
Yeah.
It was a good omen for someone, yeah.
It was funky. So let's get into the game. We arrived at the stadium, amazing stadium, grab our beers, and we saw 2 extremely lackluster quarters of football. The Bears seemingly, they came out flat, seemingly because they were jet lagged. We weren't quite sure, but it definitely wasn't, our number one defense on the field. It definitely felt like they were one step behind. Now, a lot of people had dogged the offense, I noticed, but, we only really had the ball, I believe, 3 possessions that first half. And so the Raiders were chewing up the clock. And I might add, the first possession, we were actually driving. We had a 2nd and 5, and then there was a penalty. So then it was 2nd and 15. And then Chase, in a 2nd and 15 situation, took the sack. And then the Bears had to punt it. So, that was total momentum loss. So for me, yeah, it was very upsetting to see the offensive line have another penalty and cost the Bears perhaps a scoring drive, which every drive mattered in that game.
Yeah, it was a really choppy game, I think, and we'll get into this, I think, when we talk about some of the surprises of where we are. But it was a good microcosm for what the Bears are good at and what the Bears are problematic at as well. And I think consistent inconsistency is going to define, I think, post bye week Bears and if they're going to get to the playoffs or not. And you saw it all in this game.
Yeah, I mean, personally, I think for me personally, I really underestimated the Raiders coming into the game. I know they beat the Colts, but coming into them, I mean, you got to think of the whole narrative, right? Like they're complete fools for trading away Khalil Mack. Like, what the hell are these guys thinking? And I think a lot of people, at least most people, thought that this game would be an easy win and the Raiders would be a pushover. And it was really, really surprising to see. We were just getting manhandled. Our defense was getting manhandled. They were running the ball at will. Now, if listening to some other podcasts post game, there were a few commentators that were mentioning about how the offensive line for the Raiders were doing chop blocks, and the refs weren't calling penalties on that. And so the defensive line was standing like a yard and a half off the ball, and that pretty much gave the running game for the Raiders, 2 to 3 yards, but they just go untouched. And we were just getting destroyed on the line, the run game, and then Derek Carr was looking like, it was just unstoppable. Yeah, it was rough. It was a rough first half. Didn't expect that. It could be the jet lag. It could be we underestimated the Raiders. Maybe we overestimated what Khalil Mack could do to destroy the Raiders. But yeah, it was rough and surprising to see the Bears kind of come out that flat in the first half.
And I'll say this, it's not an excuse to be jet lagged, but you got to show up and be a professional. But this is a game of inches, and only just being 1 second behind, 1 step behind, could make a big difference. And by the way, Gal, you were talking about underestimating the Raiders. Only after the game had I found out that the Raiders' offensive line actually has some players. I mean, they have guys who are maybe some of the best, not the best in the game, but people who have flashed that they've had some consistency, even when the Raiders weren't winning, but that they've been ranked very high, in all the different analytic tools. So, we definitely underestimated the fact that they'd be able to bully us and just create so much space for Josh Jacobs to run all over us all game.
Yeah, I mean, they're really big as well. I mean, that's one of the kind of few weaknesses of the Bears' defense is that they're a little undersized up front. And when they see a big offensive line like this one, or like what we'll see with Dallas in a few weeks and the Saints, it's going to be a problem, right? Because these are big lines, and you just can't make up size in space, right? It's hard when the other guy across from you is 40 pounds of muscle bigger than you, right? That's just tough to deal with.
Yeah, but I think if we play them again, it's not going to be quite the same story on defense, because keep in mind we had Bilal Nichols and Akeem Hicks out for most of the game, 2 of our starting offensive linemen. I do think if they were in the game, it wouldn't have been, and if the rest were calling on the chop block, so Eddie Goldman wasn't staying in black, I think the game would have been different when it comes to the run game and stopping the run game.
Yeah. So the second half was freaking spectacular. After that lackluster first half, and which went by for us sitting there, it seemed like it went by in like 5 minutes, and it was already halftime. And we barely even cheered about anything. The defense wasn't generating any sort of pass rush. The offense was completely flaccid. And then every aspect of the game came together in that third quarter. Special teams was doing it. Turnovers were happening, and it was amazing. And I actually, my rib has been a little sore ever since Samir picked me up out of pure excitement and spun me around like a rag doll, and actually bumped apparently the fan in front of us, who got very upset at Samir.
Great. Your rib hurts, my back hurts, Danny, from lifting you up. I'm not as strong as I once was, I think, and I'm having some difficulty sleeping, I think, right? It was that third quarter was just amazing. You saw everything the Bears could be, like when the offense is working properly, when the defense is clicking. You saw it there for that 15 minutes of just sustained incredible awesomeness. I mean, 21 points in a quarter. I think we have to go all the way back to Tampa Bay last year to see an offensive output like that. But it was really all for naught, though, wasn't it? The fourth quarter, that's when things turned, I think, a little bit.
Obviously, we
Yeah,
still
well,
enjoy.
actually, I got to say the biggest thing that surprised me was I think this is the first live game we went to, Samir, and I saw the
Yes, it
animal.
was.
I saw the animal come out of Samir. I always thought you were the analytical guy, kind of sitting in the back, but man, I saw the animal come out. That's awesome.
Good.
Yeah,
Love this.
But
exactly. I'm pretty consistent. I'm an energetic guy, but yeah, it was quite nice to see Samir go completely.
Yeah.
apeshit. It was amazing.
Oh,
Yeah,
yeah.
the third quarter for me, I thought was really promising, and that really gives me a lot of hope for the season. There are a lot of things that are concerning, obviously, with the offensive line, things like that. But the fact that after such a horrible performance in the first half, they were able to regroup and then come and have such a dominant performance in the third quarter. To me, I look at the halftime adjustments, really the strength of the coaching staff. One, in terms of adjusting the game plan, and two, in terms of refocusing the team. That really showed me a lot that this is, despite the problems, this is a really well-coached team. And this is a team of players that do believe in themselves, that can turn it on. I think in any situation, even when it's uphill, dire circumstances, they can turn it on. And it was impressive. I mean, all three phases of the game, just making plays. I was really impressed.
By the way, the Bears are still 3-2, so yeah, let's not dog them as being out of this. Most of the good teams out there in the league also are very similar, 3-2 in that range. There's very few teams that are absolutely running away with it. Maybe the Patriots, but let's talk about one thing that surprised us in this first chunk of the season. Now that we're in bye, and perhaps something that also is that we actually are hopeful for, even if despite it maybe not being at its best right now. So I'll begin. One of the things I've been concerned about so far is the offensive line. And this is the one thing I'm actually concerned about, how it will progress. I do feel like Charles Leno had a great year last year, that something will eventually click and he'll clean it up, because he's been an absolute disaster and a mess. Just even having one penalty completely derails drives. Everything we saw in that first drive. I mean, you turn a 2nd and 5 into a 2nd and 15, changes the play calling, and then Chase Daniel goes and takes a sack. You're out of field goal range. You're backed up in your own territory, and then you punt the ball. So that's one thing. But then obviously, Kyle Long, I thought that his injury, had been cleared up, and that over the offseason he would get some of his strength back. I felt that because he wasn't playing, the general wear and tear in other parts of his body wouldn't be a factor. So as long as those, primary injuries were healed, that he'd come back to, full form. We have not seen that, and there's those questions if, his days as a starter are done. So that's been the most upsetting to me.
Yeah, I mean, I think with Leno, we're kind of stuck there with him, right? Because there's not a real good replacement on that we have there really with him. I mean, I think Lucas would be the guy who's up next, and he has looked awful in preseason. He's looked awful in camp. Long, I think Coward maybe can slide in there. But, in addition, have we really gotten a good reason as to why they switched Whitehair and Daniels? I know there was some hype around maybe Daniels would be one of the best centers in the league, but I mean, Whitehair was already that. So I think there's some shuffling around and things like this, but I'm not sure what the solution here is, because Leno was a good player last year. He was a Pro Bowl alternate, so I don't know what's going on there. I don't think this is a guy you sit. This is a guy you have to figure out what you can get out of him. Long, I think. Listen, it's old Yeller time now for Long. He's a great player, but he's the 6th offensive lineman, right? He's a guy who comes in for 15 snaps as a change of pace kind of guy now, but he looks washed up, and it's sad to see, but it's time.
Yeah. I think in terms of the concerns, I mean, I echo those concerns with the offensive line and how that translates into the run game. For me personally, I mean, the biggest surprise, probably no big surprise in terms of what we've been talking about, is with the quarterback play. I mean, Mitch Trubisky didn't play, but it really comes down to, a lot of people are kind of dog and naggy his play calling on the offensive side of the ball. But I think a lot of it comes down to, the biggest question does Trubisky have the mental chops to make it as an NFL quarterback? Can he understand the offense well enough? Can he read the defense post snap well enough? Can he go through his progressions and become a pocket passer? In my mind, the jury's still out. I haven't ruled him out, but at this point, there is cause for concern, seeing at least at a minimum the lack of progression and even the regression from where he was last year. Now, last year there were times where he was going through his progressions, but definitely not enough in terms of seeing the game. I do want to see a game live with Trubisky, because being able to watch the whole field view, you're able to see the offense. If the line is just able to hold for at least 2.5 seconds, someone gets open in the offense. On a consistent basis, someone does get open on. And then the quarterback just has to be able to sit in the pocket, provided the offensive line provides enough time, but sit in the pocket long enough and identify the open guy and throw to the open guy. And that's it.
Samir, wouldn't you argue that Chase, couldn't we say that Chase was doing that and looked very comfortable, went through multiple reads and got it to his man?
Yeah, I mean, the interesting thing with Chase is that I think he's clearly played better so far than Trubisky, even despite the 2 picks. I mean, we'll get to the second pick here in a second, but to me, it's not a surprise though, right? None of this is a surprise. I mean, one guy is Tyrod Taylor and the other guy is Blake Bortles plus. It doesn't really matter which one is which. They're both incomplete players in their own ways, right? So my expectation was that Nagy was going to kind of going to continue the magic show. And I think the surprise is that the league really caught up to the magic show really quickly, and both quarterbacks, their flaws, but particularly Trubisky, are being kind of exposed here a little bit. Some of the offensive numbers, are just dreadful. I mean, they're just terrible. They're slightly better with Chase, but they're still not very good. You're going from offense 30 to offense 29 when Chase, right? So there's not a demonstrable difference between the two. And I don't know what the solution there is. I don't think there is one. I think this is a situation that we're just going to have to figure out. I mean, Gal, you said the jury's still out, but listen, they're writing the verdict down on a piece of paper. It's in the envelope. We're in a it's a you don't know what's in the envelope. So both
now
guilty or innocent, right? But there's an outcome in that.
Tell us what you really think. I will just say this. I know, Gal and I obviously were the true believers. Samir is more the true skeptic. Obviously, Samir's put numbers in front of us that, tell a lot of the story, and obviously very troubling trends. But, I still feel that, Mitch is in his own head. And yeah, it's a bit of an excuse, but I still feel like we will see better days of Mitch, even if he doesn't end up turning out to be a good quarterback, that he could be somewhat competent in a lot of situations. With a really great defense, he could even win us a playoff game or two. Let's see. But the thing is, we have no running game to speak of. This goes back to my offensive line, concerns. We have no run game to speak of whatsoever. And, obviously, with Kyle Long, we're just getting bullied. So, as Mitch is trying to progress, he's definitely not getting any help. But I do understand, our wide receivers, some of our playmakers are getting open. So, Mitch, a lot of these are on him. But the thing is, it would be nice if we had a hell of a run game to lean on, and then Mitch doesn't have to be a hero. So I'm hoping that, the run game can get off the ground. And then in that situation, we can see, Mitch play some of his better ball.
Yeah. And the whole thing, though, is with this offense and the run game, is that it's set up to pass. The challenges, even the offensive linemen that we have, even last year this was the case, they're good pass blockers. They're sub-average run blockers, for the exception of Long, who has now become a sub-average everything, right? If I'm being kind. So in order to set up the run, it's a chicken and egg situation we have here now, right? Where the offense is set up to pass, the pass sets up the run. So it's a difficult thing here, really, to kind of to get around. But for me, my biggest surprise is Anthony Miller. What has happened to Anthony Miller? My God! I mean, there's always been whispers about his understanding of the playbook, some of his study habits, some of his practice habits. When I watched him in Bourbonnais, I didn't see a player that seemed to be somebody who we should get too hyped for. But, you don't know what you're watching in practice. Who knows? But then the first few weeks of the season, again, he's consistently running wrong routes. When he's asked to be relied on in that last chase play, now listen, that was a bad throw, okay? I'm not going to let Chase off the hook here. It was bad protection. Leno and Long disintegrate within like a second of Chase getting the ball, but you got to throw that away, right? It's still a bad throw. I'm not sure if it would have been a pick. Everyone would have kind of collided in one of those things, but still, Miller is completely in the wrong place. I don't even know the concept he's even running there doesn't even make sense. It doesn't exist in our offense, what he's trying to do there. So it's something that's so troubling to me, where you have a guy, we traded up for him in the second round. And listen, the Bears' depth right now, because we've traded up for Khalil Mack, which I love, Mitchell Trubisky, Anthony Miller, David Montgomery. These are a lot of picks that we've given up for these guys, and these guys have to hit. If they don't hit, we're in a lot of trouble because we don't have the players behind them because we've given up so many picks. And a guy like Anthony Miller, and I know it takes these guys 3 years to really become what they are for a receiver, he's not running the right routes. And if you're not running the right routes, if you're a wide receiver, I'm not so sure how much we can really trust you. Javon Wims is out there getting more run in terms of his play now than Miller. It's a bit of a concern to me, and I'm not sure how that's going to get sorted out either.
I mean,
that's exactly it.
Oh, sorry.
It comes down.
Sorry, Gal, go please. Yep.
Well, I was about to echo your point. I mean, that's exactly it. It comes down to trust, right? If you can't trust Miller to run the right route and be in the spot that he's at, then either incompletion or at worst turnover, right? And so when it comes down to these game critical situations, or really any situation, if Miller can't figure it out, he's just not a viable option in this offense, which is bad, right? Because we traded up to get him in the second round. Yeah, it's concerning. I mean, he's really, yeah. I mean, that's concerning. I mean, it's great that we have Allen Robinson, but with how things are shaping up with Anthony Miller, he almost he'll make some plays, but if he's not in the right spot, running the right route that the quarterback can predict, he'll become a liability on the offense, and turnovers are a result of that.
That's right. But right now it's what I've been worried about with Anthony Miller is that we saw in earlier games he wasn't even on the field, so that makes me think there's some locker room stuff perhaps. Wasn't very happy to see him get into it with fans on Twitter. The Bears have created this culture, and I can't think of anybody who's making a problem or dragging the team down publicly like him. Well, he hasn't done that yet, but the thing is, these are troubling trends because this is not the culture of the team to be doing that. So, and then by the way, I will say that during one of the drives in London, actually was one of the scoring drives, we did see Anthony Miller have a key drop, and Samir, you and I looked at each other and we were just bitching. We were complaining. Oh, yeah. But he did redeem himself later in that drive. So I like that he did bounce back. I mean, the guy does have heart. I mean, he's, when he's on, he's on. I mean, he's had some, amazing moments as a Bear, even if there's, very few of them still. I'm still holding out hope that, this offense is still opening up and it's still clicking. We still haven't seen a guy like Trey Burton, become really a part of this offense. Adam Shaheen, this is the best that you can do with Adam Shaheen. So a guy like Anthony Miller, especially, who can be a good route runner, I like to think it's just a matter of time till he's more involved in this offense. But again, I find myself always making excuses of waiting. We're waiting for Mitch. We're waiting for Anthony Miller to shine. I mean, time is slipping away fast. I mean, it's only a quarter of the season done, but we have a crazy hard stretch. Oh, yeah. So actually, let's look ahead to that hard, crazy stretch. So we have New Orleans with or without Drew Brees, the Chargers, who have been very down. I mean, really, the Broncos beat them, and they were 0-4. So that's a winnable game. And then Philadelphia, who started the season off slow and has been really picking it up. So do we have any hope for these next few games? What do you see the record being for the Bears if things play out? Remember, it's the bye, so maybe they'll come in with a little heart.
So it's funny. I mean, I think in our season show, I actually predicted that we would be 3-2 at this point, and the offense would be struggling. So I don't know why I feel as surprised as I do, but I think it's because, listen, the defense. I know this is going to be a very controversial statement. It's not the best defense in the league this year. Go watch some Carolina tape. Go watch some New England tape. New England's given up 1 touchdown, and the offense is it's so bad. I did not think that the offense would be at this place. I do have some hope, though. That being said, I think we have a true number 1 receiver in Allen Robinson. I think we have the right culture on this team. And while our defense might not be the best defense in the league, it's still pretty damn good. And we haven't seen guys like Eddie Jackson really get off yet. And we have, and guys like Roquan Smith are struggling. I don't see those things continuing. I think those things are going to get turned around. I have a lot of confidence those things are going to get turned around.
Kyle Fuller has a few missed picks. I mean, really just by a hair. So,
So I see those things getting turned around, but I think so nothing would surprise me. I think if we dropped 6 in a row, that wouldn't surprise me. I think if we won 6 in a row, that wouldn't surprise me. But the margin of error is very small. We're not going to be scoring. It's going to be 16-20 games or 21-24 type games, right? This is what we're going to see for the rest of the season. And the margin of error is going to be really small, I think, going forward. So nothing really would surprise me. And I think that's, after this kind of rough start, I think that's a good sign, right? I think we have heart, we have culture, and those things matter, especially when the winter starts turning and guys start getting hurt.
Yeah, I would say, from the point I made earlier about Trubisky, with Trubisky sort of playing the way he's been playing, it's that margin of error, right? It just becomes so small. The defense has to create takeaways. The defense has to make stops. We have to make plays on special teams. And Trubisky, in those clutch moments, needs to make plays when he needs to make the plays. And it's almost like it's this fine line that we have to walk. If each and every game through this stretch, if Trubisky doesn't, find the open receivers on a consistent basis, and we move the ball on a consistent basis, I think it all comes down to this. I mean, like, part of the reason why we drafted him is, okay, sure, if the offensive line isn't, the run game is weak, offensive line is weak, the defense has holes. I mean, that's part of what a good quarterback does. It makes up for holes. If you have a bad quarterback, then you have to have a really good offensive line, a really good run game, really good receivers open, a really good defense that makes stops, and a really good special teams. So that, like, outside of, Trubisky, if Trubisky isn't good, you need 51 players to play, very good to exceptional on a consistent basis to get wins. And it's really asking a lot. It's really asking a lot from the other team. And yeah, I mean, in the end of the day, we just need Trubisky to, we just got to hope and pray that mental thing clicks in him where he's able to make it happen with the offense. If it doesn't, then, then it's going to be a rough couple of years for this organization.
Yeah, there's a lot of question marks. There is an awful lot of question marks that I'm uncomfortable with. Samir, they could win 6 in a row, they could lose 6 in a row. We were like this last year at this time. There was questions of how the Bears would come out of the bye. Actually, the Bears came out of the bye flat, but then ended up winning, those 3 games in 10 days against, the Vikings and 2 against the Lions. So we have big questions about Mitch. We have big questions about if we can put together a running game. By the way, with those runners, they just got to run forward at times. I mean, so many times they're juking and they're waiting for defenders to close in on them. It's just like then it puts on them to slip out of it. It's just like, no, run before they get there. Just plow forward, go downhill. So I'm sure the coach will tell them that. The offensive line, they're going to have to retool it. And I'd like to think that maybe they could rejuvenate it a little bit with these weeks ahead. So there's so many things that have big question marks, but yet we've still been in every game. So that's also encouraging. Absolutely. So, I mean, we're really a possession away from winning any of these games. Obviously, maybe a possession losing any of these games. So, just like last year, the Bears were, 10 games, were 1 possession games. So, obviously, also defense, Eddie Jackson, even these fast passes that teams are doing against our defense to minimize our pass rush, Kyle Fuller very early in, I think, the first quarter almost jumped one of those routes. Yeah. So, we've seen them do it enough. And, we're gonna still be generating some turnovers. I hope special teams could continue to flash. It was finally nice to see Tariq get a bit of a return. So a lot of question marks, but I mean, it still could go any way. No team is running away with it yet.
I doesn't this team feel like the most kind of Bears team? Like it's just like they're gonna win games with grit and defense and heart, and it just feels. And I really love the Bears team. I really love this team. Everything that we've set aside, I think, beside the quarterback, but if Mitch was like, let's say, awesome, it would not feel like the Bears to me in a kind of weird way.
Yeah.
Of course, I want him to be good. Please, God, be good, right? But it's Bears for Mitch now, right? But it just feels like a Bears team, right? It's like we're gonna win in the Bears way.
Nothing
It's gonna be the Bears way. You know what I mean? Like 1 point wins, 2 point wins,
negative yards on offense, 5 defensive touchdowns.
Guys, we never get to relax as Bears fans. I'm hoping for that day, for that year, for that decade.
Yeah.
It hasn't come. We have to scrap everything out, and maybe we'll do it against the Saints. No Drew Brees, hopefully.
Yeah.
Hopefully Bears can right that ship.
Yeah.
See, this makes me wonder if the European fans can tough it out like the Chicago Bears can tough it out. Because we're used to it.
That's
but
right.
do these European fans know what they're in for if they start rooting for the Bears? I don't know.
Yep.
It takes some grit to be a Bears fan too,
Yeah. To be fair, a lot of the European countries, have some similar weather patterns as us, where it's just like cold, rainy. So, maybe that's a start. It was nice that they showed up.
Quarterback history, we do.
That's right. That's right. It remains to be seen, guys, but we will definitely be back here. I'm going to wrap it up. Gal, since you came in late, you missed the video. Now, this video was for when we didn't know if Allen Robinson catch was a catch, even though this was not on the top 10 or top 15 plays of the week for me. This is one of the top plays of the weekend. And here you go. I give it to you right now. Bear down.
Let's go, Bears! Let's go, Bears! Let's go, Bears! Let's go, Bears!
What's the call on the field?
Oh my God, that's great.
Cool, folks.
Yeah, we got to go to our Bears games, man. That's what we got to do.
That's right.
KC, come meet me in Chicago. Let's go to the KC game.
All right, cool. Let's do it. Let's do it.
And guys, listen, if the Bears go to the playoffs, maybe I'll fly into the US of A. All right? I'm putting it out there. I can't miss that.
Let's
do it. All right. Good times, folks. Bear down, and we'll enjoy the nice bye week, and we'll see you next time.